22. We're very happy that after the trade show was postponed twice, we're able to be back here today. Today we've brought along two different subjects that we'd like to talk to you about. First of all, we want to tell you about the new products that Rosenbauer has at the show, and then the strategy for Rosenbauer up to 2030. We have the following presenters today. We wanted to bring the entire board along, but unfortunately our CEO, Dieter Siegel, has become ill and can't come today. But I think I can still say that it's personally very important to him, and you see it's important for Rosenbauer, so I'd like to say I'm happy to have the other members here. First of all, we have the CFO, Sebastian on the left, then Andreas Zeller, sales, and Daniel Tomaschko, production. And let me tell you about the agenda today. We'll begin with the presentation of the subjects, and then we've got a surprise for you, and then we'll have a Q&A session. And on that note, I'd like to hand over to Sebastian Wolf right away.
Good morning from me as well. Welcome to Interschutz and welcome to Rosenbauer. I'm particularly pleased that we're able to welcome all of you here today. My name is Sebastian Wolf and I am the CFO of Rosenbauer. So, we'd like to speak about Rosenbauer City, and this is our keynote theme for the strategy that I am going to present to you shortly. Now, the objective of this strategy is to take on more responsibility for the firefighting sector. So it's great for us to be here at Interschutz, and it's always a great opportunity for us to say thank you to our customers, to the firefighting sector, and what's particularly important this year is that we want to use this opportunity to present what we've developed during the crisis. And this is access to e-mobility for the firefighting sector. And this is the future that you can see here in the form of the electric fire engine, which we have exhibited here for you. So let me speak about Rosenbauer City. As I said earlier, what underpins our strategy, and you can also see this in the theme note for the fair, you can see everything that we've prepared. We prepared the separate crossing here, etc. And we have a process we've been looking at for the last 1.5 years. It's a very broad-based strategy. There are a number of employees and managers at Rosenbauer who have been working on this. We are very proud that we have been able to do this in a very agile setting. Furthermore, we have now concluded this process, and today we want to show you how we believe the future for Rosenbauer will be for the next 8 years. So, since 2012, we've been working with our customers and also with other stakeholders at regular intervals to develop a firefighting trend map, which looks at the megatrends that we try and break them down for the firefighting industry and think together about which topics which will have a significant impact on the firefighting industry. There are 4 key topics which, in our view, are currently the most urgent for the firefighting industry. Firstly, climate change. The number of natural disasters is increasing. You can see that it's gone up from 249 in the year 1980 to 820 in the year 2019. And not only the number of disasters has increased, but also the severity of these disasters. You can also see this in forest fires in Germany, for example. So, as you can see, then there were only 424 wildfires back in 2004, and there are now significantly more. We've seen in Spain, close to Toledo, where 3,000 people had to be evacuated. And also see how important this topic is. And Andreas will present to you our approaches here for forest fires. Now, a second key trend, which has been on our roadmap for a long time, is social change. As you can see, a shift in gender, civil society. Our firefighters, our customers are getting older. There are also more women involved, which means that our products need to reflect this. The products need to be lighter weight, they need to be ergonomic. This is particularly important to us. On the top right-hand side, you can see digitalization. This is a topic everybody is talking about, but what does this mean for the firefighting industry? At the trade fair this year, we are trying to explain our approach in this field. There are several issues, for example, a cooperation with DJI, the Chinese manufacturer. We're also working with Robotape, where we are looking to try and monitor the globe with satellites consistently to try and provide information for the firefighting industry. Furthermore, we have our telematic solution, which has been used for a number of years now and is continually being improved. RDS Fleet is the name of the product. So here we have a system which can be used to support fleet management, but which also allows us to have proactive maintenance and remote maintenance and servicing. So, if the trailer isn't working in South Africa, for example, then in Karlsruhe we can access this in order to perhaps detect and also solve the problem. Now, the final trend that we have here is a shift in global markets. Here you can see the significant economic growth in China, where over the next 4 years it's projected that we will have growth of 50%. We believe that this increasing economic and population growth in Asia and Africa will present challenges and opportunities for us and the firefighting industry. Sorry, I went in the wrong direction in my presentation there, but here we are. What's the state of play today? In 2021, we had a difficult year. We had a sales contraction of around 7%. The level of 2019 was more or less achieved. Earnings at 3.6% EBIT margin was a significant contraction in the first quarter. We were still in negative territory, which means we had a very challenging year. And you can see where the declines come from if you compare the results. So here you can see we had a decline of around 5% in revenues. In for PANTHER, our PANTHER products, and for the firefighting industry, we have a late cycle company, which means that the late cyclical trends hit us with a delay of around 1 year. And this was reflected in the year 2021, following the peak of the pandemic in 2020. Nonetheless, what were the other effects? Now, all of you will have read plenty about this, but the supply chain issues have hit us as well. Price increases, commodities have had an impact, even back in 2021. And this was compounded by the war in the Ukraine here in this year, 2022. As such, our business model has long delivery times and also with fixed price guarantees, which we usually have, is facing challenges, and we have to look with our customers at how we can both find a solution. Now, this is also a process of a transformation, which is very important at the moment for our sector. But positive news is order intake with more than 1 billion euros. Last year, we arrived at the pre-crisis level. Such, there is a lot of demand from our customers, and despite the difficult environment, this gives us cause for optimism for the future. And our global presence now, some of you will have seen that since 2014 we have successively been expanding our service and sales network. There are several sites that have come online since the previous Interschutz trade fair in England, France, Poland, Australia, Italy. Now, these are all smaller sites which we can use to serve local markets in service and sales. Furthermore, last year we set up a company in China, and in Germany too, in Viersen, we expanded our site after setting up a new service site there in the year 2020. And last but not least, in the Middle East, in Dubai, we set up our own service site in 2020. Now, this year, the share of our minority interest in North America has been purchased, which means that we now will soon own 100% of Rosenbauer America. This is strategically important for us because the America continues to be the single largest market for firefighting products, and in 2021 it increased to 6,000 units. Now let me just remind you that the entire market, according to our research, is around 20,000 vehicles, which means that it accounts for a significant share of the vehicles which are purchased in America. Now I would like to have a look at the core of our strategy. So what exactly is our strategy? As I said at the beginning, we want to take on more responsibility for the sector. We are convinced that this will allow us to bring profitability back to a better level. As such, the two pillars, profitability and responsibility, will be merged in our strategy, because we believe that only if we develop positively in both of these areas will we be able to progress accordingly. So now this is something of a theoretical model. So innovation, what do you want? Innovation, customer centricity, or operational excellence? We decided we need all three. So in the situation that we face in this niche sector, we believe that this is absolutely necessary. For points 1 and 2, we believe that we are doing very well, but when it comes to point 3, operational excellence, this is not really in our DNA. However, in future, we want to strengthen here. So, let's just tell you a few ideas here. You can see that a vision. We want to have a carbon-neutral fire service, zero-carbon fire service, and this can be reality with our electric fire engines. Furthermore, I think that at this trade fair we'll be able to demonstrate that our objective for having an alternative drive system for vehicles across the entire range will be possible. We are convinced that if you have a look at the level of effectiveness of an electric motor, where 85% of the energy can be transmitted into propulsion, then with a diesel, only 25% of the energy is actually used for powering the vehicle. And you compare this, I think this shows that this is a reason enough to believe that this will be possible. We also believe that we'll be able to do more with digitalization. You will be able to see this at our trade fair booth as well. And above all, we believe that in future, we don't want to. People don't want to have an infectious disease now, and people want to have fire in the future. So we want to do a lot for preventive fire protection, and have this as a core part of our business model. Now on to our customers. Here we would like to continue to expand our international presence. We will continue this part of our strategy. We believe also that we will need to have topic-oriented customer support. So topic management, this will mean, for example, wildfires or e-mobility, to try and make available our expertise to our customers more effectively than we have thus far. Serial customized production by offering pre-configured products. Now this is a best practice approach, as we call it. So you don't come to the customer with a product and then reinvent the wheel, but instead you come with a good strategy for your customer and you adapt it to what the customer's needs are. This is the idea we have. Another important part of our strategy is semi-knockdown licenses and components, which would allow us to have a greater focus in markets where we are not present with our own production companies in order to improve value added and bring it closer to the target markets where our customers are. And last but not least, as I mentioned before, operational excellence, which is an item where we believe there is room for improvement, and where we believe the greatest source of improvement is this new territory for us. The objective is, in everything we do, to bear in mind that we want to generate the optimum benefit for our customers, so best value for money. And we want to use standardized products for this, better supply chains, but also with what we're looking at in our processes at the moment. We always speak about end-to-end processes, focusing on what we can improve in the area we operate in order to derive optimum benefit and achieve operational excellence.
So,
what does this mean in figures? Our objective is to arrive at revenues of 2 billion in 2030, but this is not a pure growth strategy. This means that when it comes to the number of vehicles, we go from 2,000 to 3,000 2030. Now, the reasons for this are that alternative drives will make a significant contribution, and we also believe that in 2030, 50% of our vehicles will be equipped with alternative drives. How do we want to achieve the growth? We want to do this in North America and Asia, the Far East. We believe that here we have the greatest potential. And when it comes to components and also service, we are observing disproportionately high growth, but this is because it's not that clear because vehicles have such a dominant part of this, but we expect disproportionately high growth in service, primarily due to e-mobility, due to digitalization, due to the chassis that we will be bringing into the supply chain, and also for remote services and refurbishments. We believe that the repair refurbishment of vehicles will continue to be, will have to be a significant part of our business. So for equipment, we've decided that we look at our top 5 markets where we currently are strongest. For technical equipment and PPE, we want to achieve a market share of 65%. Here, we believe that growth will be concentrated primarily in North America and Asia, where we have a few white spots on the map. Furthermore, as I said earlier on, in preventive fire protection we will exhibit growth. Here we plan to more than double our business, so 230% growth in fact, primarily in Germany and Austria, where we have a strong presence already. And as a full sortiment provider, we need to take all the opportunities at our disposal to achieve growth. So, some more about the figures. As you can see, we plan to have profitability of 70%, a 70% EBIT margin. Why do we need this? Well, as a financial expert, as the CFO, you can't see this, but free cash flow. So what remains after capital expenditure is lower, which means we have to earn the money in order to be able to invest in our future. So this means developing products and also expanding capacity. Furthermore, and you can see this in working capital, you can see we've got a target of around 40%. Last year we made significant progress here. This is also very important. So what does this mean exactly? It means that 40% of our revenues I or we will have to be provided to the bank in order to be able to run our business. So inventories in we do have inventories in production, but also the long repayments from our long-term repayments for our customers. And here I would like to appeal to you and say I am sure that our customers are always able to finance better than us, but we hope that we can have a shorter payment terms, or sorry, longer. We'll get shorter payment terms for our customers. So that's it from me for now. I will now hand over to Andreas Zeller, who will focus on wildfires for now.
Yes, I too would like to say hello to you. I'm happy that we can cover a few specific subjects that will be at the focus in the years to come, and I'll be able to tell you about the current trends. One subject that is basically something you hear about almost every day. Just imagine the big wildfire near Madrid now. This is the subject of wildfires. Now, when you talk about this, we have to discuss climate change too, and at some point in time we've got to realize what's going on. There are still people who deny climate change. And that was at a point in time in the past when we were talking about models for climate change. Maybe it was legitimate to say, okay, you can have a different opinion. Today, it's statistical reality. You can measure the temperature increase, you see the flooding, you see the numbers of fires going up dramatically, and suddenly there are wildfires in areas where they never used to have any wildfires, or you see heath burning. So we shouldn't just talk about forest fires. A wildfire is fire in the environment, heath, forest, whatever, and it's a huge subject. And if you look at the top, you see the map of the world, and this shows you that there are going to be different changes in different parts of the world, and there has been different change in different areas in terms of climate. It'll be much drier in the northern part of South America. And another thing you don't see really too well if you look at these maps, it'll be much drier in Central Europe and in the Mediterranean basin. Now, as Austrians, we're really seeing this. If you look at our glaciers are disappearing. And this is our water reservoir. And this is a subject that's going to be important for all of us and should be important for all of us. Then there are other regions that will get substantially more precipitation, but climate change isn't just more wildfires, it's also more flooding. If you look at the Sahel zone in Central Africa, you can see that the amount of precipitation will go up considerably. And one thing shouldn't be forgotten. When we talk about greenhouse gases, the first people think about and have thought about for many years is industry, transportation and traffic, cars and trucks. 15 to 20% of greenhouse gas emissions come from wildfires. That can come directly as a result of combustion in wildfires, but it can also come indirectly because methane can be released that has been in the soil. If you look at Siberia, where you look at permafrost, Alaska, Canada, where they also had permafrost more in the past. This is what's happening. And all of this shows that we're talking about a danger here, which is going to put at risk the very basis of our existence. And we're also talking about a situation that's not just local. You have the normal sizes of events and the normal size of organizations, but this is changing. It's going to have to become multinational efforts. There's going to be a need for cooperation, and we're going to have to have concentrated deployment teams that will be able to fly to other countries and support them out, provide them with their services. Now, for this reason, we have decided that we should look at wildfire and look at it holistically. So we've consulted experts from around the world to look at the existing methods and use simulation and detection and so on. And what we have done is put together a group of experts that's going to continue to exchange opinions, and all of the relevant points that they've recognized Well, here it's like with our firefighting trend map that we've been doing since 2012, and this is going to be, it's being, or has been turned into a wildfire action map, and this is going to be the basis for recognizing the interconnectedness, visualizing it, and this will be the basis for product development, to a certain extent organizational measures too. And this will serve not just for us, it is a wildfire action map that will provide to others, like we did with the firefighting trend map. It'll be available to firefighting personnel and emergency personnel. Now, what's our background? Well, we come from a product background. For years, we've provided firefighting vehicles for wildfires, and this is perhaps what you might think is directly connected to wildfire fighting, but this can be adapted. And since in the past few years there's been a lot of innovation, we have to realize that for wildfires, there's not just firefighting on land. You have to be able to do things on sea, on lakes, on water. We've talked about some cooperative ventures, and we're planning another cooperative venture with a company called PANTHER, and it's for an extinguishing boat. The extinguishing technology is from us, the boat is from PANTHER, and if you look here in the outdoor area, you'll see the first model. So we're talking about firefighting from land, from water, and in the air. Now, it's quite popular to use helicopters, but extinguishing planes, this is often an efficient but expensive means. The problem is not just purchasing a firefighting airplane. Rather, it's also about the case that if you have a wildfire, you need several airplanes, and when they're not used, there's a lot of capital that's tied up and they're not being used. So this refers to the machinery, but also the team. Now, the idea with the cooperative venture with this company called ACA is this: tank systems that can be loaded into existing airplanes can be attached and fixed. C-130 Hercules, for example, you can do it within an hour to attach it. Then you'd have a tank volume of 13,000 liters. And you can fill it up in 5 minutes, and the extinguishing agent then is released within 5 seconds. And when the deployment is done, the tank system comes out, and C-130, well, that's usually owned by an Air Force, and then you can use that airplane for its normal purpose again afterward. So this is firefighting methods, but it's also about detection too. In terms of detection, well, we have satellite support, and here we have a cooperative venture with Aurora Tech, as was mentioned, but then it's also about verification. Was there really a fire? What does the scenario look like? There, drones are great support. Now, in order to do justice to all of this, we said, okay, we need an organizational setup that we call topic management. Here we focus on wildfires, beginning with theory, beginning with the essence of what a wildfire is. And then we derive from that extinguishing technologies, firefighting technologies and methods, selecting the best ones. It's also about detection and the breadth there that was already mentioned. It's also about providing information, preparing information. Where are the crews required? Where are the crews? You need reporting about what has been done and how can we learn from this in the future. And here we have digital solutions at Rosenbauer, and they're the tools of choice. Then vehicles. Firefighting vehicles. It's not just about firefighting, extinguishing with the normal extinguishing agents. More and more dry extinguishing agents are going to be important. You sometimes have to dig ditches, and you want to make sure that there's not an underground fire. And so we have a cooperative venture with a Slovakian company called CSM. And in terms of firefighting technology, well, they have a backhoe, and we can do micro travel with it, so it can move during deployment, and you'll be hearing more about this in the future. Then personal protective equipment, PPE, of course, rounds everything else off, and it begins with your boots. And for PPE, we're also talking about everything from helmet to boot. And then two more things: international cooperation. That's very important. That will be a major challenge for many organizations. So here, it's important to establish and define mechanisms and processes ahead of time so that you don't have to start coordination when there's actual deployment. Now, we have some equipment that we already mentioned. One of the highlights that we're very, very proud of here is our new boot. And it really is a milestone here. It's the lightest firefighting boot we've ever produced. It's extremely flexible. And the most important thing is this. A boot has to offer both things. It has to have a perfect fit, and you have to be able to get into that boot as quickly as possible. Now, with our multi-zoning lacing system, that can be pre-set so that when you put the boot on, you just have to pull two tabs, and you can do them at the same time. You get in there really quickly. There's probably no boot in the marketplace that can be put on more quickly, and we've already got some feedback, and we've heard that the fit really is great. Now, the special sole was developed together with the tire company Michelin. We've got the best grip possible because we have the right rubber mixture and the geometry of the tread. Another innovation that we have is electrical power supply, and an alternative for power generation. Here we have our PS2 power station. Now, this is a self-sufficient type of power generation. It does not use an internal combustion engine. Power output 2,000 watts, and this means that for 1 hour you can run all sorts of equipment. Let's give you an example. Components such as your submersible pump, that can be operated for 40 minutes here. It's a robust design. It can be recharged with a photovoltaic system. So we're really trying to make sure that this actually is totally self-sufficient. It's a mobile unfolding system. You can see it here at our booth at the trade show. When you do the walk around here, you'll be able to see a lot of these components. And it can be charged, as I said, from the vehicle. It can also be charged from the grid, and it can be charged with your photovoltaic system too. Now, this electric component in particular gives me a good cue to transition to our e-mobility fleet and the focus on electric mobility per se. Our vision of a carbon-free firefighting future is not just a vision, really, it's actually already reality. We're heading toward that target already. You'll see this if you look at the registration statistics for passenger cars, and you see it if you look at trucks that are in the market or are going to be in the market soon, or in the pipeline now. And the advantages of zero emissions operation of electric chassis should not be underestimated. Here we're talking about investments in society, and for this reason, public transportation is a pace setter. We see that there are a lot of cities who have committed to becoming carbon neutral 2030, 2040, 2050, and they're doing this around the world in the areas for which they're responsible. Now, battery-driven concepts in the next few years are the drive concept of choice, in our opinion. There will be other concepts, but for batteries, well, we're just about to see the next generation of batteries, same size, much more energy density, and a lot of the standard deployments can already be done with battery-powered e-chassis vehicles. The Rosenbauer portfolio already comprises many of these, and in the future it will include not just internally developed e-chassis like the RT. In addition to that, we're also building on standard production chassis, electric standard production chassis. Now I'm emphasizing this for the following reason. There are third-party conventional chassis that have been converted, and our commitment is this. Either you go the radical path, you take advantage of all of the possibilities for the new concept, and you can develop a vehicle like the RT, or you can use the guarantee from standard production chassis from the big manufacturers, and you have a product from one source. Now, afterward, we will talk about Volvo chassis, which are the basis for our electrification system. We'll be presenting them to you, and Volvo is also represented here at our booth. So if you have any further questions, you can talk to them. You can recognize them because they have the appropriate attire on. Now, the advantages for people, for the environment, that's not just zero emissions. Yes, CO2 reduction, carbon reduction. If the power comes from carbon-free sources, that's relevant, but it's also about local emissions. Let's say you have a pump vehicle or a ladder that's being used for hours, and then the emissions are right there where the vehicle is located. Now, it's not healthy for the crew, even if it's Euro 6. And the other point is noise. Noise above a certain level can damage people's health. In addition to that, it substantially increases stress levels. So reducing noise by a number of decibel, we're talking about up to 10 decibel noise reduction. This means people can feel or have the feeling that it's reduced by, the noise is down by 75%. That makes a huge difference when a team is on deployment, where they're out there to save lives and protect their own lives too, and concentrate on doing their job. Now, this technology offers lots of advantages. We've got power development or torque development that you don't normally get with this type of machine. You have less complex drive technology for the transmissions. You often just need a 2 or 3 speed transmission. And last but not least, over the long term, the economy is a positive aspect for electric vehicles. You have less maintenance, you've got a longer service life for electric vehicles, and the low level of vibrations means that all bolt-on parts, normal body parts, are under less duress and stress, to mention just a few things. Now, recuperation, that's something which enhances the efficiency of electric vehicles. So there's a lot of demand. Fortunately, we have been in a number of countries already with our demo vehicles. The first pre-production vehicles have been delivered to customers. They're being used. And in Canberra, we've got a customer in Australia. Dubai, too, the vehicle's already being used. There's a lot of testing going on in hot, dry environments. We've got a lot of customers and projects in Europe, and I can proudly say that in the United States, the RT, which is called the ATX there, so they've RTX, they've added a letter, so it's an NFPA compliant vehicle that we've developed there. That's what's emphasized with the additional letter, the X. And for the very first time, we've been able to deliver a vehicle like this to the Los Angeles Fire Department. So it's the very first electric firefighting vehicle on the American continent. In addition to that, I can say it was a door opener in Los Angeles because it's the first Rosenbauer vehicle in Los Angeles too. We've got a number of vehicles in the pipeline, many orders. Now, when we talk about the pipeline, we're talking about actual orders. But there's got to be some formalities done first. And it's the right point to mention something now. We're very happy that tomorrow there is a community called Unveiling that is going to sign with us the order for an RT vehicle. The original design of the RT included the following things, and it was based on the following statistical assumptions. We determined for technical operation that about 45 kilowatt hours is sufficient or is necessary for a technical operation. The typical standard extinguishing operation that we defined together with fire departments was about 90 kilowatt hours, and the conventional standard operation, 4 hours of continuous use, that's calculated to be with an H35. That's a pump that does normal pressure and high pressure too, up to 4,000 liters at 630 kilowatt hours. That's the amount there. Berlin is the best example when it's about knowledge that we've garnered from actual practice. Now we've seen up to nearly 1,500 deployments in Berlin, and 90 to 95% of all operations have been done on pure battery power. We also have a statistical figure that we determined. The average duration of an operation in Berlin was 30 minutes, and the average energy required was 20 kilowatt hours. Now, of course, there are cases that go beyond there, beyond the 90 to 95%, and there we've got the range extender. That's a generator that's available to generate any more power that's required when the batteries can't provide it alone anymore. All of this has got to be produced. It can't just be done the way it was in the past with normal vehicles, and my colleague Daniel Tomaschko will talk about this now.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to give you a warm welcome today. There are a lot of familiar faces here again, which I'm very pleased to see. Now, welcome to all of you again. Now, because we had plenty of space here at the fairground, we have brought some of our products here to show you. I would like to invite you, if you'd like to have a closer look at our products and production, to do so during the trade fair. So, my job starts after the trade fair. So, everything that was described here about producing things, the components, the vehicles, the equipment, the stationary extinguishing systems, to be able to produce them on a scale that Sebastian described before as part of our strategy to look at where our focus needs to be and which products need to be accelerated. This is what I deal with. Now, after the research and development process, we have to look at how we can do this. Here you can see the fire engine that we have on my right-hand side, which is produced when we discussed in Leonding how this is going to be produced. As you can see here, we've got a new production line that we constructed in an existing hall, which is hall number 6 at our facility. Now, as you will probably know, we have a new service site in Arsten, which opened last year, and this created space for RT production for us. Now, there are a lot of new ideas that have been incorporated into this product. A lot of facelifts which you'll be familiar with from the RT. And here we looked at ergonomics and tried to improve this for our workers to create working conditions which do justice to an attractive workplace. Now, as you can see here in the picture, this is designed to produce 100 units. What we tried to do was to take the technology that was incorporated during the R&D process, particularly the chassis, like in the PANTHER product, and apply this here. So rather than taking an existing truck chassis, you need a geostation to do the frame construction ourselves, and with the line here to have the tacting for this as well, and then also with the loading and finishing sections, that all of this can be done on this line. Now, if you want, you need new testing devices in order to make this possible, which is possible due to the new software and technology that we have available. Let me just tell you a little bit about the progress of the project starting early on. So you start with the chassis, where we have a new bolting technology that's been applied, and also the new high voltage technology has allowed us to use a different tooling system. because it is also important to create a modern working environment. Now, just to give you an idea of how this, and we have an overall investment of around 700,000 euros for this project, with the duration of construction of approximately 8 months. Now, one of the things that perhaps distinguishes us from previous years is that all of the prototypes which have been brought with us to the trade fair were built using this line. So it's important to gather expertise when doing this. So once we have built the first prototypes, then we brought our best employees over to RT. And this is the second most important, this is another important point for us now, to train the employees accordingly. So not just to comply with the statutory requirements to allow people to work on the high voltage systems, which begins with the delivery of the products. And we get the high voltage systems from Volvo, but you also have a look at the logistics, how they are stored, where they need to be stored, and if anything unforeseen occurs, then we need to be able to respond. So the topic of safety is of utmost priority here. Now, high voltage technology is trained for all our different teams. We've got our own qualification model that we developed. This allows us to look at chassis production, braking systems, drive systems, screws and bolting. As I mentioned before, we try and convey this to our teams, and we did this with the Panther also. We have a train-the-trainer system as well, which means that we get the best people on board to ensure that service is also trained, the people in production are trained, to ensure that we truly have end-to-end the best, most motivated employees working on our latest product. Another system which is also produced in Leonding is the battery extinguishing system here. Now I'm very proud that this is one of my systems here. What we wanted to do was try and provide a solution. Now, we had a look at a number of different products. You know, where you have to hit hard with a hammer, for example, where you're standing around a long time around the vehicle that has been in an accident. And we wanted to come up with a new solution which firstly offers safety. This is the most important thing, which is also efficient and fast. We opted for a system which can be pushed underneath the vehicle and penetrate the battery, because the batteries are in the underbody for the optimum center of gravity, and this allows us to extinguish the fire and have an impact across all of the different cells by means of cooling. So this puts a stop to the fire. Now, for safety, one thing I'd briefly like to mention is that we want the firefighters to be working on the vehicle for as short a time as possible. So you can push the system under the vehicle, it can then be removed from the vehicle. There is also the remote trigger, which is pneumatically powered. Now, efficiency as well. Now, it's not as if we're going to put all the electric vehicles into a container, because with a combustion engine vehicle, then you stick the vehicle into a container. But what we want to try and do is cool as efficiently as possible here. We want to try and consume as little water as possible. You have to have a look at where the water goes to, and that it can be used for cooling. We need to be quick as well. We want to be able to carry out the job in less than 1 minute, which is why for us it's important that, with this product in mind, speed was paramount. So, I don't want to keep you waiting too long to tell you about a new product that we have, and now Andreas will speak to you about this.
Well, we, of course, have some novelties for you, innovations for the trade show. Now, before I move on to AT Electric, let me say this. When we started working on RT, we said we want to think ahead, something that will be best for the future, and we want to make a radical approach here, so we've got to move away from the conventional chassis architecture. Only because we have a completely new running gear design were we able to have an entry level and geometry and cab arrangement like we have in the RT. But, and this is something that we really have to say here clearly, we already mentioned it, in the future we're going to also not just have the special vehicle, the RT, we're going to have bodies on standard production vehicles. And the model for municipal firefighting on a standard production vehicle is our RT over many generations. And we've decided that the AT electric would be brought to this trade show. It's an innovation for here. It's tried and tested technology. If you talk about the AT in general, the body concept, it's tried and tested, been done so thousands of times. You're familiar with the operating concepts, the steps, you know about all the details of the AT, and you'll find it all here. In fact, the entire volume for the equipment area is the same. However, we had to make room at the bottom for the battery, and we've made other space available where normally the pump is put. Now, what does electrification here look like? Well, we've got an electric Volvo E chassis, Volvo FE electric. It has two electric motors with a continuous use output of 225 kilowatts. It's a 4x2 drive system, and for peak performance, there are 400 kilowatts available for short amounts of time. We've got a standard EPTO that is an electric motor power takeoff, and this drives our pump. It's a low floor pump, and according to 1846, it can do the standard operation requirements, and in order to operate this beyond the normal battery life or battery power available, you have a range extender on board, and this generates 50 kilowatts of power, supports the battery so that for continuous use you are also covered. The batteries are well known. We have them in the RT, we've got them in the Volvo FE electric, both in terms of AT and also in the successor vehicles. You've got 66 kilowatt hours of capacity, nominal capacity. We use 50 kilowatt hours to achieve a longer service life for the battery. Now the specifications of the vehicle, you see there, 2,000 liters tank. We've got the underfloor pump, and the range of the vehicle is up to 100 kilowatts. 100 kilometers. Now, we have a similar chassis. Actually, it's the same chassis in terms of the type. And this is something that you've been seeing in magazines for weeks and months now. It's the first fully electric aerial ladder that's in the market now. That aerial ladder is over there in the electric fire station. It'll be over there on your left, my right. You have the full functionality of the L32AXS with no restrictions. The XS with its very short and compact geometry, with the 32 meters of working height, the cage, the multifunction column, all of that is the same. With this purely electric approach, you can run a number of cycles. We've got 3 batteries in the vehicle there, and here too, nominal 66 kilowatt hours, what's used 50 kilowatt hours, which ensures that the operation of the aerial ladder and almost all operations can be covered. Now let me go back here, because you will be surprised by the fact that almost all of the vehicles here are red. One of them is not red. And we're therefore very pleased to announce that we are here with the Zurich Emergency Services, where we are going to see the ladders being used, and the Zurich Emergency Services Department will be our first customer. So therefore, we already have the color, which is their basic design color. That's why that's been selected after the trade show. The rest of the painting and everything else will go on there. Okay, is that the end of it? No, not quite. We have one more highlight for you, and you might have thought, well, what's behind that curtain there? There's an innovation that we're very proud of, particularly proud of, and we think once again that this will be a milestone in our history. So, I'm trying to create a little bit of suspense here for you. We're going to be showing you a teaser, and then we will be unveiling the secret. And the secret is being unveiled step by step. Okay, and now you are seeing more and more of the Panther Electric. This is very quiet. There's no backdrop noise or music. Electric mobility means that you have very, very low noise levels. And let's just enjoy the quiet here so that you can take your pictures and just enjoy looking at the Panther Electric. Things about it. What you see here is a concept vehicle. So this means that the vehicle has now been presented, and after this is going to go into the test phase. And you have all the functionality of a Panther like you're used to. It's fully electric. In other words, we're talking here not about a hybrid solution. It's a fully electric drive system which has a generator on board in order to provide electricity if what's required goes beyond the normal levels required. We've got a powertrain which offers all sorts of different possibilities. The ones you're familiar with, you've got the normal transmission, you've got actual locking, you've got the pump for fire extinguishing, you've got the mixing system, the metering system, you've got the water monitor system. Everything you're familiar with in a Panther is here. Now, when you're talking about performance in terms of fully electric battery operation, you reach all of the levels provided by the IC engine, or it's even better. And if it's about top performance, we can achieve acceleration of less than 26 seconds for 0 to 80 kilometers an hour. Just to give you a couple of key figures for that vehicle. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. When you finish taking your pictures and making your videos, we'd like to offer you a Q&A session, and after that we'll offer you a tour of the booth. And there we'll be talking about the details of all of the products that you've seen here in an overview. We'll talk about them at greater length, if you wish. So, if I could ask you to come back briefly.
Ja, die Reihen füllen sich.
Okay, the seats are now being filled up more and more. Let me ask the last of the photographers over there to join us. Allow me to take this time to say the following. I think it's the right time to do this. Behind everything that we've been presenting here, in particular behind all of the innovations, there's a lot of work, and the work begins years ahead of time in engineering and in product management, and then it goes on to the supply chain people, procurement, production. Often people work down to the last second to make sure that these products are done and comply with the quality standards that you know Rosenbauer represents. We're at a trade show here, and it's a preparation phase we've gone through that lasted months. It was about communication, it was about marketing, it was about design, and this is not something that you do in a moment. So I'd like to take this opportunity here to thank everyone that's been working in preparing and making this trade show possible for us. Thanks to all of these people. There will always be at least 100 people here at the booth, inside, and at the open air site. There will be, of course, a change of manpower during the week. But let me say right up front now, thank you for your commitment, for your motivation, for your enthusiasm, and I think that's really something that's appropriate to say right now. Now, before we go on to the Q&A session, let me give you a little bit of an appetizer. And on behalf of myself and my colleagues, I'd like to now thank you for the first part of the show. We are here to answer any questions you might have afterward, and let's show you this here to set the mood.